relationships. We're going to touch on a few different things. First and foremost being client feedback programs and business development events, and a little bit on CRM. So I'm hoping that it'll be a nice discussion where you can chime in and comment as needed. My contact information will be in the slides if anybody wants to follow up after the program. A little bit about our firm, if you're not familiar with us. We've got 2 offices in Chicago and Irvine, California. We're about 100 attorneys, as we talked about before. We work with a range of clients, financial institutions, private equity groups, public and private companies, middle market businesses, and entrepreneurs. One exciting note that I want to share is that we're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary in 2020. So that's exciting for us. So we'll dive into client feedback programs. I know we've got a mix of firms and marketing folks in the group, so I'd love to hear from you. How many of your firms currently have a program in place where you're talking to your clients? Okay, so we've got a few. So I feel client feedback programs are one of the most significant relationship management tools. Talking to your clients is a critical investment in maintaining a successful business relationship. They're important for succession planning, client retention, business and professional development. There are a couple different approaches that your firm can take. There's one way of doing it with electronic surveys that you would send at the conclusion of a matter, or you can conduct in-person interviews. I'm going to focus on in-person interviews this morning, and then of course this is my experience. I know there are others in the room that have different approaches to how they conduct in-person interviews. So I've always sent a high-level, non-relationship partner, such as the managing partner, an executive committee chairman, or a practice group leader. It's really important that the relationship partner is involved, but never attends the interview. This is important because you want to foster an environment where the client feels comfortable sharing feedback. They may not feel comfortable doing that in front of the relationship partner. One thing you also could consider is engaging a consultant, depending on the budget and resources of your firm. I know a lot of firms also send their members of their marketing department. That's another option, again, depending on the size of your firm and whether you even have marketing folks within your firm. At one firm, we would send a consultant with the managing partner. We found that that worked really well. At Much, we send associates as well, which we find is a really nice way to highlight not only the inclusive culture of our firm, but it gives our associates an opportunity to have exposure to the clients. They get to learn about their businesses, and it's their own professional development. So it's a really nice thing that we do at our firm. So while I think you should talk to all of your clients, that may not be possible. So you want to identify certain reasons why you would invite a client to participate. I found there's typically 3 reasons. One is that you want to show them some attention, affirm their importance to your firm, just capitalizing on that relationship, making them feel valued. Another reason is if your revenue generated has either risen or fallen significantly over the course of representing them. That's something that you'd like to be aware of and would be a reason to reach out to discuss it with them. And then, of course, if there was a problem that arose during the course of representing them. So that's something that you'd want to be aware of. Once you've identified the clients that you're going to interview and you've secured the interview, you want to work with your marketing department or your firm librarian, again, depending on your firm resources, to create a report of recent news on the company, relevant information about the person that you're going to be interviewing, background info. This report, along with the revenue trends, should be provided to the attorneys or folks that are going to be conducting the interview. It's all really helpful to put things in context for when they want to talk to the client. The next thing that I think is really critical is setting a pre-interview prep meeting. So you want to make sure that everybody sits down together in a room. You want to have the partner or the people that are going to be conducting the interview, the relationship partner, whether you're engaging a consultant, you would have them join the meeting. Everybody should get together and discuss in advance the nature of the relationship, issues that might be going on in the client's organization, the history of the relationship, sensitive topics to be aware of, things to avoid, any pertinent information that the relationship partner feels is critical, they should talk about openly in this pre-interview prep session. All right, so now we get to conducting the interview. This is the good part.
So before you get to that,
oh yeah,
I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
So how often would you suggest, or how often do you go out to meet with a client? Like, does it become a regular once a year, once every 2 years? How often do you do it? That's number one. And number two, I know you touched upon why you would meet with clients, but how do you actually determine which ones you go to see? And what do you do if the partner in charge of that client says no?
All right, let's tackle the first question first. How often? I think a lot of that depends on the relationship. Certainly if you've never interviewed a client before, I would put those high on the list. New clients, where you may be 6 months in, a year in, might be a nice way to check in with them to see how the relationship is going. Are we meeting their expectations? Are there things that we could improve on? I mean, I think that's a nice time to do it. Long-standing clients, you want to be careful not to do it too often, but you want to make sure that they feel value and important. It really depends on the firm. I'm not sure there's a hard and fast rule, but if anybody in the room feels that there's a specific timeline to adhere to.
Who put up their hands and said they do client interviews?
Do you have thoughts on timing?
I've done them previously. I've done them previously at my prior firms, and I think that after a large matter concludes, that's a really appropriate time to say, we'd like to come in and talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, how things went. So that's a good opportunity to reach out to them and offer, a client feedback session. Also, if there is a client that you're looking to grow, or if they're working with different practice groups, that's also a good opportunity to get in there and talk about how that relationship is working.
Somebody says no.
So that's a difficult question because I think we touched on this a little bit before. I'm only about 3.5 months in at much, and so still learning about the nuances here. But I can speak to previously. We definitely had some challenges at another firm where we had a really formal program in place. Our managing partner was very involved, and we would analyze different things, such as the length of the relationship, revenue, is it time, did we speak to them 10 years ago, and then we'd go to the partner and say, we'd like to do this, we're going to move forward, and we did get some pushback. So partly the way we handled it was we sat down to try to identify what the pushback, what was behind it, and some of it sometimes is insecurity on the attorney's part. They may be afraid to hear what the feedback could be. I know in an ideal world, everyone thinks they're loved by everyone, but unfortunately, there could be instances, but it could be something where it's not that they're upset with the relationship partner, but possibly there was someone else working on the matter that wasn't as responsive, that they are uncomfortable getting that feedback, or maybe the client has an issue with your billing or invoicing process, or they felt the bill was too high and didn't feel comfortable talking about it. It really depends, and I think that's when you want to be sure that you're engaging in open conversation, I think, with the attorneys working on the matters, and then having a clear path of, does the management committee identify who the clients are going to be that you're interviewing, and that's it. Who are we contacting? There are a lot of different approaches. Some firms may have it very open where the relationship partner gets to say no. That sometimes happens, and it's a challenge, and I've encountered that. And then other firms are comfortable having their managing partner or management team say, this is who we're inviting. We've identified these 10 clients that we want to meet this year. Who should we invite? Give us the contact information, otherwise we're going to just go forward and invite who we think we'd like to invite. So a lot of it is your firm's culture and how you determine to set up the program.
Alan, we do it at Moy White, and we look back at the preceding year and look at both volume of work as well as the dollar amount of work, because obviously there's some one-off clients that you're never going to get another deal from, you're never going to do another matter for, and while it may be interesting to find out how that went from a quality control standpoint, from a marketing and other standpoint, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We're a little draconian. You don't get to say no. You know, it just is. But there are some parameters around it. Obviously, there's a time period after the last matter where, you know, if it's a big case or something like that, and it gets concluded, you're not going in the next week and saying, how do we do? How is the bill? All of those things, you know, 6 months, 8 months, something like that, assuming everybody's happy and it looks that way, then we go in, and we have a particular partner who is very, very good in the interview process. It's not the managing partner. Candidly, it's not even an equity partner in the firm. It's a guy who is in charge of marketing, and he's very adept at putting them at ease, chatting with them about things, and we do it face-to-face. We do not do anything by phone or email or anything else.
Well, and I think that's an important point, is it doesn't have to be the managing partner, as long as it's a partner that's very comfortable and adept at conducting those interviews, and I agree they should always be done face-to-face. We did have a situation where a client accepted the interview and then declined it in person and said, we're just going to do it on the phone, which it was at the client's request, which of course we did, but it doesn't have the same effect or impact as the in-person meeting. So I think if you're going to do it, I would always recommend being there in person. It has a lot more impact, yes.
I think there's maybe some firms here where the marketing department is involved with conducting the interviews.
Yes.
Does anybody want to comment on that?
So I am part of a two-person team that goes and interviews our top clients. We went through a number of different considerations in how we would do this program, and frankly, our managing partner does check in with some clients, but not what he would describe as not the level of detail we want when we do a deeper dive on some of these interviews with the firm's top clients. One of the things that really drove the creation of our interview, our client feedback program, are the different purposes. And so we actually have different interview modules depending on what it is we want to learn. And so we have a client appreciation interview guide, we have a client growth and a client service interview guide, we have a market research interview guide. So it really, what is the goal of that interview? And we try to keep it laser focused. And we target different types of clients for those different interview modules. But that, at our firm, it didn't take a whole lot to get comfortable with having myself and another senior member of our team go and do the interviews. But that really is built with trust over time and the endorsement of our managing partner. So if you're going to do that, you need to have that cover from the top. But it's helpful to, we looked at an external consultant resource. What we ended up doing is having that consultant train us. They did a train the trainer, train the interviewer. So we went through a series of training with them. We used their best practices modules, but we have enough connection to the firm that we can really understand some of the nuances and personalities involved to provide that real connection point back to the firm. So I think my advice to this group is, regardless of how you do it, do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Okay.
That's the best piece of advice.
we'll go back to that.
Okay. So I love your idea of having very specific modules. I don't know that we're there yet, but so our approach has been to have more open-ended questions that can help guide the discussion. Here's some example questions, and again, from those of you that have done it or are doing it, I'd love to hear your feedback on other questions to ask. But I always think it's a nice way just to get the client comfortable to start with some softball questions, asking them about their role in the organization, asking them to talk about the history of their relationship with your firm, and then roll right into what are we doing well, what can we improve, have issues arose, did we deal with it in a satisfactory manner. Let's see, we've got some more. Typically invoicing and billing could be a pain point that you want to address with clients, and they may not always feel comfortable addressing it with the relationship partner, so this is a nice time to cover it. Also, it's a great opportunity to ask them who else they're working with, what other firms are doing well. Always try to frame things sort of in a positive way. You know, what are they doing well? And then try to figure out how you can capitalize on that. How is our firm then different from theirs? Because if you've had a long-standing relationship, you want to try to remind them why they're working with you and what you're doing well.
I always thought, not to cut you off, but I always thought that that was very telling. I think it's nice to hear feedback, more abstract, just say, how did I do? But I think it's great to hear it in the context of how did I do compared to somebody else. I think it provides a very interesting touch point, and then just some intel on other firms if they're very open and candid about it, which is also very helpful.
Right. So then you identify who your real competitors are.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And then in some ways, this is one of the most important questions because it's going to set you up for action steps and figuring out a way that you can truly add value to the relationship and cement the relationship with the client. So it's a bunch of different things that you can see. Would it be as simple as inviting them to continuing education programs? Would they like to receive thought leadership from your attorneys in different areas that you might have expected? Do you have some unique firm resource, like an online document hosting capability that would be really useful for them, for you to share documents? At a previous firm, we had that, and it turned out it was the greatest thing one of our clients had ever seen. They loved it. It was a program called Collaborate, and we were able to exchange documents in a totally secure way. Never would have known if we hadn't thrown that out there. Another idea that we've had some success with is providing a 1-hour meeting with someone within your organization. So is it your CFO? Is it your IT director? Someone within the group that would be not necessarily the relationship partner, or possibly the relationship partner, but just a free 1-hour meeting. What's on your mind? Give the clients an opportunity to just ask anything they want, talk about what's keeping them up at night, what are their business concerns, and what can someone within your firm offer to them that would be a real value add. So that would be something that I think could be received really well. Also reviewing your billings, if an alternative fee arrangement is something that would be on their mind that they haven't yet felt comfortable asking for, this is a nice way to bring it up. And then determine something that's mutually beneficial so that everybody feels happy. Determining if there's a need for targeted services in another practice area. Creating something like a real estate tax audit, or do they need employee sexual harassment training? I know in Illinois we're going to be required to do it starting in January every year. Every employer is going to be required to do that. So is there an opportunity for you to work with labor and employment attorneys within your firm to bring value to your clients? Is there a service provider that they need? Or, like we've been talking about, is there an attorney within the Ally network that we could refer them to? So these are all kinds of questions that you can ask and determine how you can add value and really work to bring the relationship closer with the client throughout the process of talking to them. Any other value adds that other firms are offering? You guys done different things within your programs?
Mayor, I'll ask a question to those people who do the programs. Is there ever a question that you asked that afterwards you said, we can never ask that question? So,
do we charge too much?
So some of us who have not had client interviews, here's a chance to tell us, don't ever ask this question. Did anybody ever run across that or say that became problematic? No? Okay.
Related question, what's the most surprising bit of feedback you've ever gotten in an interview that you're just like, wow, never knew or would have no idea? Or others too.
I mean, I think it goes to this question about adding value. Regardless of the strength of the relationship, you realize they'll share with you ways in which people are courting, other firms are courting your client. People are trying to date your client all the time. And they will share with you just the many ways people are doing all of these things. And so it really helps you to up your game and not take anything for granted. And so I think it was surprising to some of our lawyers that even though we had a very strong relationship and they indicated a sense of loyalty to us, that they still are being courted and they are sharing that with us for a reason, you know. We did have one client say, you know, we're not married, we're dating. So you got to keep it up, right? So you got to keep up the courtship all the time. You're not married to your clients, they're not married to you. There is not that level of commitment, I guess I would say, and even in the best of relationships. So just that was surprising for some of our lawyers to hear. I would say people are doing some really, really creative things, and you know, the secondments are a big deal, reverse secondments are a big deal, partnering with your clients and things completely unrelated to the practice of law, very unique pro bono fellowships, diversity fellowships. So, you know, finding ways to connect on things that have absolutely nothing to do with the work.
A lot of times I found that it's not even necessarily about legal service that they need. Sometimes it's just about attention, the way you're communicating with them. Secondments was something, for sure, that's become a very hot topic. Developing a tracking system for different parts of their matters. So these are just ways that by taking the time to talk to your clients, you can understand what's keeping them up at night and look for ways to keep the relationship going, because you don't want them to start dating somebody else. I like that analogy. And so to me, this is just, you want to look for ways to immediately provide that value. It's so important that once you've had the discussion, if an issue comes up during the course of the interview, address it immediately. It's so important. The worst thing you can do is to solicit their feedback, get it, and then do nothing with it. So be sure that if there is a concern, if there is something that you need to discuss with the relationship partner, immediately loop them in and make it clear that you're putting attention to their concerns immediately. So what you want to do, what I found very successful is setting, so you had this pre-interview meeting, now you want to have a post-interview meeting. It's very important then to discuss in detail everything that, whomever conducted the interview, whatever they found from the client, any information unearthed, you want to share it with the relationship partner. And it's important that they then are involved in the follow-up. I always think following up with them pretty shortly after the interview is great, whether your firm wants to send a gift. Everybody has a little bit of a different approach, sending a little thank you gift. And then the relationship partner should definitely plan to follow up at certain points during the year. I would say even 3 months, 6 months, a year. You want to be sure that they're staying on top of anything that came up, or just simply maintaining the relationship and making sure that they feel like they're getting the right level of attention from you.
How do you deal with a situation where you know there's an issue with the client? You know it. The client nonetheless continues to deal with your firm because that is an issue with one person out of maybe a team of 5 or 6 that they regularly deal with, but they put up with that one person for the sake of having all of their work in one place. And you know that going in. Like, you know when you have your pre-meeting that the relationship partner says, listen, we can't talk about partner X because, number one, I know there's a problem, and number two, what partner X does, no one else in the firm does. So it's not like we can offer another solution, right? If you can't drop in somebody else, that is the only person who does it. Have you had that, or has anybody had that scenario, and how do you deal with it? That's a challenge.
So my first question to you, which I know we talked about a little bit before, is there a way to address what the concerns are directly with partner X? Is there a way to try to shift some of that behavior or responsiveness?
Let's go on the assumption at this point that with partner X, that's who he or she is, and it's never changing. This is a real example, and it's not changing, right? And so you're stuck with them. They have their good points and their bad points. Unfortunately, their bad points are very in front of the line. And so that's, and I'll be honest with you, that to a certain extent has kept our managing partner from wanting to do client interviews, because we have certain practice areas where there's only 1 or 2 lawyers that do that type of work. And if there's a problem and then the client says, well, you know, I love your firm, I love what you do, I just have a problem with partner X, once they've opened that door and you said you have to address it like you do, there's no way to address it. And so that's our challenge, is how do we deal with that scenario? I know we talked about it before, so in the month, I don't know if we can come up with this.
The fact that you don't talk about it with the client doesn't make that issue not exist.
Right.
And so it will self-correct at some point at the client's choosing. And one of the things, we talked a little bit about sort of fear factors and some of the resistance that you're going to get. And we actually have a document, but the attorney says this, and we say this in response. Like, this is what you do to bring people on board with talking to your client. This is the why stir the pot. The client's paying the bills. We know there's tension, but they continue to pay the bills. But the continued payment of bills is not an indicator of the strength of the relationship, and it's not something that is sustainable either. And in fact, the one olive branch you can extend is, we get it. What else can we do to add value to this relationship? We're working on it. We see you, and you might actually be able to get tentacles into that relationship outside of this one particular individual. We've also found that the formality of it and the clients actually saying it and the transcript of them saying it and actually bringing everything to the forefront has been the one way to start chipping away at that particular individual's resistance to doing anything differently. What's your alternative is to just sort of slow death, which is what will happen if the service levels aren't there. I don't believe that any one person is so unique that there is no one else that can fill the shoes. They will, if it's bad enough, they will go find somebody else to do it.
My experience has been that can be a very positive inflection point for a relationship with a client also, because many times the fact that a client is willing to tell you about his or her dealing with partner X is a sign of trust and a real healthy relationship, and an understanding that, here's a weak spot, I love you, but I'd like to deal with this. And so, sort of like not following up on your interviews, it's an opportunity to really blow it, but it's also an opportunity to capitalize on that trust and really strengthen the relationship. And if you can't deal with X in that situation, you have to find a way to mediate between X and the client. I think you gotta interpose something in between so that you address it, or you get a different X.
Anybody else? I happen to agree with you.
No, I know you do.
But I'm in the minority.
The resistance is real, though. I mean, there's my client will tell me if there's something wrong, or I talk to my client all the time. I know exactly what's going on. There's all of these different responses, or they're very busy, like, you know, there are any number of responses that attorneys have or your managing partner may have about why do this. But I will tell you, for as large a firm as we are and the clients that we represent and they engage multiple counsel, they have said this is the first time anyone has ever asked me for feedback. That's a differentiator. And so you want to be that person while you have the chance to do so.
To your point, we're about to embark on this at Smith Anderson, and BTI consulting firm, they have a study out that talks about 70% of counsel want to be asked. So that you know, they're too busy to be asked doesn't hold water when you look at that. And like you said, that was another one of their points, is it actually differentiates you because nobody else does this, right? So it's showing that you truly care. And one more stat, since like I said, just don't report it. Yeah, the revenues are going to be 5 times greater in general from clients that you survey in this capacity. So there's that monetary figure. If you can't get through to people in another way, the bottom line of the firm will be healthier.
So Susan, we're going to put you on the spot because a year from now you said you're just embarking upon it.
Well, yeah, we're approval stages.
Okay, so a year from now we're going to ask you how you are.
Yes.
And which question we shouldn't ask. Hopefully you want to counter that. Hopefully you want to counter that. Does anybody else have any comments, questions on it?
I have one question. I just want to know if anyone that does it, if they really do track ROI. And do you see those same numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten significant new work from longtime clients that have said, okay, we've had this chance to sit down, and some of the things that they indicated about, you know, we work with this team, but these are some of the priorities on our plate now, and we've been able to introduce them to new people, new practice areas, and I mean, these are 20-year clients, and we've generated new work in new areas. It's been fantastic, more than paid for itself.
Well, and that's what you talked about, is that I think that's one of the benefits, is once you give them that attention with the interview, the likelihood of getting more work just increases exponentially.
Well, hopefully the experience is better too. Maybe that's another reason for it, but I just, you know, and I've heard of studies like that too. I just wondered if people had actually tracked in this group, if they've seen similar results.
So we do it, I mean, but I'm hearing all this, and I've always felt the way we do it is all messed up. And it's just not it's just not formalized. We tend to deploy it when we know there's a problem, and we do it sort of as a let's go save the business kind of a thing, or we do it, and this is smart, I mean, we try to do it at an inflection point. So I certainly am very aware of clients that, particularly those are private equity backed, and they've got Blackstone or KKR, it's like a revolving door. You've got to get out there and meet the new people. But that's really not an interview. That's not really a quality interview. So we need to do it better, and I think be more formalized about how we do it. We certainly don't track ROI.
And I think that's critical. To invest the time and the effort, whether it's your marketing team, you're spending the money on a consultant, or you're investing in attorneys in your firm conducting the interview, you're making a huge investment. And the investment is in the relationship management. To not track it is really just borderline criminal.
True confessions, at Varnum, we make a big project out of it periodically. We do both the in-person and we have written surveys. We get all kinds of great feedback, and we say this is great. But then it's such a huge project, we don't do it again for another 2 or 3 years. So what has been people's experience? How do you institutionalize it? Is it done on an ongoing basis? I mean, are there interviews throughout the year and it's just kind of a rolling thing? Or what have people found to be the best practice?
So ours is rolling. We have a set of, each firm has a set of clients that are critical to your business. They account for a significant portion of your revenue. I don't care what size firm you are, there is a set of key clients. You need to identify them. Those clients get an annual touch base with us. And then we have we see clients that are emerging, and we have a rolling touch base with them. But the interviews are happening throughout the course of the year.
Are we going to...
Just one more thing I'd like to say is I think part of tracking and and planning and keeping it on a rolling basis is keeping those lists running. You want to be reviewing a 3-year trend of revenue with the clients that you'd like to invite. You want to identify who are the clients that you've invited, when have you spoken to them, what were action points that came out of the meetings. Just having that awareness and understanding of all of your historical activity, and then identifying how is your revenue hopefully grown from this program is just so important. So I would say rolling basis is always your best approach. All right, next, we're going to move along. So let's touch a little bit on business development events. This is a real fun topic. One of my favorites. So this is another really effective tool, I think, in the overall marketing strategy of your firm. You can have signature or annual events that will assist in maintaining and developing your client relationships. I think they offer several benefits, and you can use these as kind of a guideline to identify what you're hoping to achieve by hosting different events. Is it an opportunity to show gratitude and appreciation? Is it an opportunity to have clients and prospects meet other attorneys in the firm in different practice areas where there's an opportunity to grow the business? Is it introducing different clients to each other so that you're adding value to their businesses? As well as highlighting the types of clients that your firm is working with. They may not know. They live kind of in a vacuum thinking of themselves, so they may not have an understanding of your firm's overall size, capabilities, types of clients. So these could be a great opportunity to demonstrate those things. I always say the key to a successful event lies in your invitation list. If you're not thinking strategically about who you want to invite, it becomes just a party. And I don't think that's anyone's goal ever in investing the time and the money in creating business development events. So things to look at would be revenue, the length of the relationship with the client, whether it's a brand new relationship or a long-standing relationship, thinking about your top prospects, and of course your key referral sources.
One thing I added to that recently is kind of like a client survey interview process is clients who are for some reason on a decline, right? When you see they're not performing in the way that you thought they would, it's another opportunity to have a touch base. So I thought we've added that and that's working well for us.
All right, so I know we're running short on time, so I'll dive into some of the fun stuff, which is the types of events that you can host. So these are things that I've done very successfully and would love to hear as we're going through other things that other firms are doing that have been successful. Of course, I think we all know educational seminars are the best way to highlight your attorneys as thought leaders and subject matter experts, as well as providing continuing education credits. Everybody loves CLE. There are other areas where people need continuing education, like HR professionals, pharmacists, nursing home care folks. There's all different kinds of educational credits, and you may be able to, in your state or country, apply for those additional credits as well. So that's a nice way to add value for your attendees. We're in the process of planning our 4th annual healthcare seminar, which is coming up in October, so I know we're very excited at Much. And we offer those educational credits for different folks. So it's not only legal credits, but it's also for the attendees in their fields. If you want to plan a focused, smaller group event, I think those are best done centered around an activity. So some activities that we've done that have been really successful are mixology classes. Get a really small group of people, have a mixologist come in, serve delicious food, create little teams of people to mix drinks together. It's really fun to have that activity that ties you all in. You start talking organically just about things, and then ultimately you build relationships, which is a wonderful opportunity. Other fun small group activities are whiskey or wine tastings, flower arranging classes. I know that sounds funny, but I've done it now twice with tremendous success. We did a large-scale event with about 60 women, and then we also did it in a really intimate setting with like 8 women, and both were a total slam dunk. So those are great events for, obviously those are women specific. Cooking classes are really fun. I know some people think they're a little tired, but I still think it's a nice opportunity. You're doing something with your hands. You can have a drink. It's nice and engaging. Those are fun. A lot of people are now moving into yoga classes. I don't know how people feel about that, but I know that there's been a lot of talk about doing things like that, yoga classes, and then of course we always layer in the wine and hors d'oeuvres afterwards. always a hit.
General theme, I see.
Yeah.
It loosens people up, as you know. We did something, bouldering. Has anyone heard of this? Yeah, this is apparently a new trend. It's climbing rocks. It's not necessarily like rock climbing on a wall, but it's rather just large. There's new facilities that have come up in Chicago, and so one of my former firms did a bouldering event.
I can only imagine there are some construction company that had this whole thing. What are we going to do with this? It costs a lot of money to move them, so they just created this.
Well, and look, poof, and it's a thing.
Yeah.
Great for you.
You guys need to get out to Utah more.
So then shifting, obviously the smaller group events are great, but then there's also value in really large scale events, talking 200 to 400 people. This is a great opportunity to have a wide-ranging invitation list. This is a great time to include your prospects, your referral sources, and not necessarily just clients. Great way for other attorneys in the firm, younger attorneys in the firm to participate, have them invite their contacts. You can do it in a multitude of ways. Closing down a really popular restaurant, buying it out on a Thursday night, bringing in some live music, having just a ton of food, entertainment, making it really fun. People can come and go as they please. That's done, I think it's done well, but that's a very specific, if budget allows, type event. Something else that you can do on a little smaller budget, but still has tremendous impact. If you are a firm that's into sports, you can do a daytime sporting event and theme it around like March Madness, baseball opening day, serve stadium-style food, hot dogs, hamburgers, have a popcorn machine, buy a Pop-A-Shot or rent a Pop-A-Shot, and just sort of have that whole really casual, sporty theme. And if you can, host it in your office. It's a really nice way for the attorneys to participate without losing their entire day. If you've got the space, then they can work and then be notified when their clients arrive and then come in, mingle, be a part of things. When their clients have to go back to their office, your attorneys can then go back to their office as well and resume their work. Yeah.
Question on single client events versus multiple client events. Do you do both, or what are the pros and cons of just inviting 10 people from a particular client versus some of these would be people from a lot of different clients, right?
I think it depends on what your goal is in having the event. Is it to introduce those clients at one client to more attorneys in the firm and just kind of have an appreciation gratitude event? Then I would say yes, you want to do a smaller scale just with the client so that they have an opportunity to get to know more attorneys in your firm. But then I think sometimes having these larger scale networking events where you can invite people from different businesses or different clients so they get a sense of the overall firm size and capabilities. So it depends on your budget and it depends on what the goal is for the event.
We do both. I think sometimes you get people open up a bit more if it's just that one client, and sometimes they're more comfortable. They don't necessarily want it to mix with all the other clients. I don't know.
And again, it's what you are hoping to achieve. I think everything that you do should have a goal. To just have a party it'll fall flat. So to have that strategy in mind is critical.
Just to follow up on that, whether the event is to say thank you or to promote a new client, whether it's a small group or a big group, how do you deal with or avoid the perception of the clients client saying, at the end of the day, I know who's paying for this. That can be sometimes an issue. What's your experience?
I think a lot of it is the messaging. You want to not have it be a setting where that's the focus. If the idea is to show gratitude, then you would want to preface that with the client that we're so grateful for your trust in us, and we're so appreciative that we get to be your trusted advisors and partners in business, and we'd love the opportunity to come in and spend more time with you, not talking about work, and get to know you and set the tone that way. And I don't think it sends a message of I'm paying for this or my bill's going to be paid. I think that's a nice way to avoid that.
Well, one type of event that we promoted within our firm that's worked really well is tying the client event to social responsibility. It's something very important for our firm culturally, and so we put together events where we have attorneys working side by side with contacts, clients, whoever we want to invite, with some sort of social responsibility mission, whether it's, we recently did putting together school supply kits for Chicago Public Schools, and it was not very expensive, so we talk about where the money's coming from and client concerns there. But when you're all standing in a room working together with a shared purpose and goal, it creates really good bonding between you and your clients, and everyone really feels good about it. So since it serves a multitude of purposes, those are the types of events we've been promoting, and we've had a lot of success with them.
So
I've had a couple experiences with firms that watch what their clients are supporting in the community, and they show up at events that the clients are supporting because they're holding hands with the client, and that's really has paid huge benefits back to the firm.
okay, we're going to try and wrap it up. So
I just want to give one last tip. I know we ran out of time, but one last tip I would like to say is once you've made the investment in planning the event and you've got your attorneys that are committed to participate and attend, I strongly encourage you to prepare in advance of the event. Take 15 minutes. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just 15 minutes to prepare. Look at the invitation list. Identify who you want to see, who you'd like to meet if you've never met them before. Prepare some key messages. The worst thing that you can say to someone when they see you or meet you and they say, what's new, or what's going on, how's work? Don't ever say nothing, not much, same old, same old. Those are the worst conversation killers. So if you just take a few minutes to think of a fun story or anecdote or something that you can take with you to these events, whether it's a networking event, anytime you're going anywhere to meet clients, that's my recommendation to you, is take the time to think of, are you going on vacation? Do you have something cool coming up in the future? Did you get a new dog or a pet? Or is one of your kids going to camp? Something fun that shows you as a person that you could talk about with people, and remember to ask questions back. That's my key. Don't just make it about yourself.
So thank you. Two observations. I think a lot of firms have internal newsletters that are just internal. But I think if the firms are willing, it would be helpful if those internal newsletters could be shared with other members of Allied Law. I don't think you just want to send it out to everybody, but there might be a way that we can sort of request. So, and the reason why I'm saying this is because normally you will report events that you are doing within your internal newspaper. So it's a way, or a publication. So it's a way for, let's say, for us to see what other firms are doing, for other firms to see what we're doing, and then if something sort of, you're doing something that really is of interest to us, we can phone you up and say, hey, I see you did this. We're very interested in doing this type of stuff. So as opposed to having some emails always going around, maybe that's a way that we can start to find out what other people are doing from a client event point of view. But if there's other suggestions on how to do that, like, I think it would be great to share that information. The other thing is with respect to the client interview process, and as a firm that's not doing it, but should be doing it,